Hey everyone. While I was working on this video, I realized that I did not talk about the host of this video. This video that I recorded with Rachel Newhouse was videoed at Katie's Books down in Lee Summit, Missouri. It's a great independent bookstore to go to. They were so gracious to host us there in a back room they have, and I swear every single time I go by there, they are adding books, adding bookshelves, rearranging the bookshelves. They have their own branded notebooks, all this stuff. They're always doing something there. So if you want to support a local bookstore that's independently owned and supports independent local authors, and you're in the Kansas City area, they are a great bookstore to go to. Visit them, buy their books, do all that good stuff, support them. And just a heads up, towards the end of the video, I ask Rachel Newhouse to summarize her entire series. So if you're curious about the series and kind of want to know what it's about, but uh, don't quite want to read it until you know what the whole thing is about or whatnot, or if you are like a if you run the library at a Christian school and all this stuff, looking for books to bring in your library, there's a summary for you right there. The cat wants in my lap. So you have that whole summary. Cat tail in my face. You are not helping out in recording a video. Say hi to the cat. I put a huge banner on the top of the video saying, hey, this is what's happening. And it's the last thing that happens in the video. So if you see that and don't want to hear any spoilers, that's pretty much the end of the video. You can just end the video right there. But if you wanted to know about what the series is like, what happens in the whole book and the series and everything, you can sit there and watch through. She does have a program where if you run a library at your Christian school, or if a church likes to have a library for their teenagers, she has a link on her website where she can send you the books as long as it goes in for a library. She has conditions, stuff like that. Check out her website for the details on that, and this will give you an idea of what's in this series. Now let's get to the video. All right, everybody, welcome to another video idea I'm doing. This is kind of a fun idea I have. I really would like to talk to the authors that have made an impact on me and wrote the books that I love. But that can't happen since most of them are traditionally published and just out in who knows where. But I can talk to local authors here and get their opinions on books that I've read and everything like that. So I'm starting off first with Rachel Newhouse here of the Red Rain series. So yeah, thanks for agreeing to do all this with me.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Although my first goal is to convert you into an author that I wrote a book that you love.
Okay. So, yeah. No.
Challenge accepted.
I did. Yeah, I did read through Red Rain last year, and I liked it so much. I've been handing it to like families in my church, like, hey, take this, read this. Your kids might like it, and just all that stuff, which is really rare because you know, in this local and the independent author group, like, you can't always do that with church people. Like, yeah, I read this, but you shouldn't. Or like, yeah, like, you know, there's some stuff that's in popular books that, like, yeah, it's not really Christian. So like
yes, but here's all the content warnings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so like, but like, there's none of that in your book. And one thing I liked about it there is that you kept it real. Like your main characters are Christians, but like, you kind of made it obvious that they're not surrounded by other Christians. Like, in one of the action scenes later on in the book, I remember you saying something like, I'm pretty sure you said a few words I shouldn't know exist. Or you kind of joked and hinted at that stuff, but like, it wasn't like spelled out in your face stuff.
Yes. Yeah, so actually my favorite thing to do is to swear without swearing.
Yes.
And I have so many jokes and just puns where I make it clear that the character swore, but I don't need to spell it out. Yeah, we all know these words. You don't need me to spell them out, and if you don't know those words, I'm not going to teach you.
Yeah, it's like the children's program thing of the adults caught it, but the kids didn't kind of deal. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
That's great. But yes, I wrote down some ideas I had, or some questions I had coming reading through your book. And where did you come up with this idea of like Christians going to Mars? And like, because I never thought about that. Like, that was a big thing that popped up in my mind reading your books. I never thought of like what Christianity would look like out in space, because I hadn't read the Dune books either, and supposedly that's in there. But where did you come up with that idea?
So first of all, love Dune, but the book is a slog, so I am working through it. So I'll let you know how it is when I finally get through it. I've been working on it for a year.
I might have to audiobook it.
So I will let you know. It's like a 50 to, actually no, I think it's more like an 80-hour audiobook. So good luck. That's a part-time job right there.
Yeah.
So really, I actually don't remember, this is gonna be really funny, I don't remember where I originally got the idea to involve Mars in the book. I remember where I got the first scene of the book. I remember where I got the idea for the dystopian government. I remember all of that. I don't remember where in the process I decided, hey, we should also go to Mars. So that has been wiped from my memory. That's just a blank spot.
It just happened.
Yes. But for me, kind of the point of writing Christian science fiction for me is just to write a character like me, so in this case a Christian, in science fiction. So obviously in science fiction we do space travel. We're going to colonize Mars. Maybe we're going to meet aliens. You never know. And I just wanted to write all of these fun scenarios and adventures that I enjoy, but with a character like me. So for me, it's like, well, if everybody else is going to space, so are we.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, yeah, that was cool. And that was one thing I noticed. It kind of bleeds into the second question of, like, a lot, like, I think it's kind of like atheists might see it as a convenient play of, like, okay, one world government that's punishing Christianity, that's not going to happen. But, like, how much pushback have you gotten from that premise of, like, the one world government trying to eradicate Christianity?
So I actually have a really funny story about this one. I really haven't gotten a whole lot of pushback about that, but I did a little bit when the first book came out. So this first book actually came out in 2011.
Okay.
And I actually had a very good friend. I love him. You know, he's a good writer friend. So he's allowed to say stuff like this to me. But he came to me and he said, this is totally unrealistic. And I mean, he doesn't like dystopian, so I kind of just like gave him a pass and just let him go. But then 2020 happened. And we're gonna keep politics out of it, but
yeah.
This same friend, he came back to me after that and he wrote me an email and he said, I owe you an apology. And
it can happen.
Yes, I'm like, I wish you didn't, but you do. And so unfortunately, I think with recent events, this has become a lot more real. Now, again, I still think it's in fiction, it's extreme. What you see in the book, this is far way off for America, maybe.
Hopefully.
But the general of control and just the government being all-consuming, that's a little less far-fetched for people.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the things that kind of scared me a little bit about that whole year that felt like 10 was like we are like one piece of paper away from living in 1984.
Yes.
Like and like the implications of you can have your own political opinions or whatever, but like that's very scary. Of like we could very easily look for like V for Vendetta or 1984.
Yes.
Like very easily, very quickly. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty interesting idea because like I've read some books from like what was it called? I think it was called The Thor Project by I think it was Frank Peretti, or maybe it was somebody else. My parents loved the Left Behind books, and my dad loved Frank Peretti books. So I think it was what the book was called, The Thor Project, but it was very much stuff like that. Like the EPA became overpowered and was like trying to eradicate Christianity because they were the ones who burned the ozone and stuff like that.
Yes.
But it's scary how entirely possible that is.
Yes.
Like even if like say the Catholic Church comes into world power, then like all the other non-Catholic Christians suffer. Like all that stuff is entirely possible. Like there's several books out there for you all to write. I'm not getting into dystopian stuff.
I already have one genre of dystopian. I don't need another one. You can keep it.
Yeah. But yeah. Also, where did you get the idea for all of your characters, Philadelphia and like her family and all that?
So the base characters, like the one that you see in book 1, a lot of those came to me. I actually pulled from Revelations chapter 2 and 3, where the letters to the 7 churches.
Okay.
So all of those names, Philadelphia, Smyrna, Ephesus, Sardis, and Laodicea, those are all churches listed in those chapters. Okay. So because I was kind of going with this post-apocalyptic, kind of had a little bit of inspiration from the Mark of the Beast that's there in Revelation.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I got the idea of the file, and it's all or nothing with the government. I was like, well, let me pull these. These are really cool names. So I pulled it, but then I also read those chapters and I used some of the lessons that are in there, like you've fallen from your first love, you are lukewarm, like that kind of thing.
And it inspired the characters.
Yes, it inspired some of their arcs. Yes.
Oh, theology major missed out on that.
Yes.
That's cool.
But it's subtle. It's not.
No.
It's thought the whole places of the plot, a lot of it's plot driven, and then of course from there I just built the characters that I needed. You know, so the rest came in. It was like, well, I need a evil commander for this camp, you know, and then the rest just developed.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. And you could talk about like any of the other books you've written. You like, I'm like, whether or not I know about stuff that in books doesn't mean I'm not going to read them. Somehow, I even read the Harry Potter books, I saw something on Facebook, spoilers, and I knew that Harry Potter was going to die somewhere in the series. So like, I thought my wife started reading it before I did. And so she got through like book 4 or 3 or something like that, and I just blurted that out.
How dare
and she was like, that's still like the worst thing I've done on marriage. Yeah, I am. I've never seen her so mad at me before. I'm like, I thought you saw the same thing I did.
You slept on the couch for a week, didn't you?
Yeah, at least. But yeah, it was. But yeah, so like, whether or not I know stuff, you can talk about anything in any of your books, and like I'll still read them and stuff, and I'll put spoiler buzzers up there or something.
All right, well, there is somebody that died. No, I'm just kidding. We won't go there, but yes.
Everybody dies in book 3.
No.
Yeah, and
no, it's book 7 where people start, book 7 and 8 where there's some deaths that some people got mad at me for, but it was great. It's fine. Everything's fine.
I think every author should make their fans mad at something.
I specifically wrote the ending of 7 to make people mad, because I ended on a cliffhanger. And yeah, so, and I got the reaction I wanted out of it, and it's amazing. And people still love the book, though. They still tell me it's their favorite after they sent me the hate mail.
Yeah,
so
afterwards.
It was great.
I already have a book planned that's going to end with something like it's going to design you to hate, almost like the second Amazing Spider-Man movie. They made you spend the whole movie loving Mary Jane, and then just to kill her at the end.
Rude.
Yeah, I know.
That's super movies. Movies for you.
Yeah, that one actually, that is the movie that got me the closest to crying. But yeah, you hinted at it. But where do you? So when you're writing books, where do you gather ideas for your story? Do they just like come in your head as you write them, or do you actually get ideas from places?
All of the above. So earlier on in this series, and this is a natural when you're writing a long series. So earlier on, a lot of it just came to me, or I had this idea. I was like, it would be really fun. I really want to do like a Katniss Chosen One Revolution plot. So I started building that, and just some of that stuff I just built out. I get a lot of inspiration from obviously other dystopian, like especially the Hunger Games is my jam.
Okay.
Like zero shame. There's so many references. It's a Chosen One plot. There's, it's the whole Mockingjay kind of vibes. No shame. I love it. All of it. So I started building that, but now that I'm later in this series, like I'm working on, actually working on a bonus story right now, but next will be book 10. At this point in the series, what I'm really doing is building out what's already there. So I'm like, well, I started this, I have to finish it. So I started this war, well, I gotta resolve it. Or, I introduced this bad guy, now I have to finish them. So at this point, I'm less finding ideas from outside as I'm more looking at, here's what I have, here's what I need to resolve, here I know who my characters are, how can I do this in a way that readers are going to enjoy? And
it makes sense.
So yeah, at this point it's a lot more internal. I'm getting a lot less inspiration from other places, because I have so much material that I need to take care of. Okay,
that was one thing I thought was interesting about To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. Now it's obviously like Aliens meets Halo. That's obviously what the book is, but he left enough things unresolved in there just because everybody's just trying not to die and solve this one central problem. Like there's 3 others that just happen.
Whoops.
And like,
I hate when that happens.
It's like he's obviously leaving that as room to write something else.
Did he ever do a sequel to that one?
Not yet. He wrote a prequel where it's like his take on The Martian, but like if you remember the beacon they just mentioned in there, it's them discovering and trying to research the beacon.
Got it.
That's what I just listened to that book a couple weeks ago. That's what Fractal Noise. That's what it's called.
Yes. Okay.
That's what that book is about. Yeah, and so, but what was your most difficult part about writing, like the book Red Rain or just the series? What was the most difficult part of like that for you?
So book 1, I don't remember anything difficult about it. Like, I honestly don't remember the drafting process at all.
It just happened.
Yeah, it did. And it was a short enough book that, it didn't take very long. And I had enough of it baking that I was pretty much just putting down on paper what had already been percolating my mind. So I don't remember anything about that drafting process. It must have been great. Editing must have been fine. The biggest thing with that was it was my first. So I was learning to do all of the publishing stuff for the first time. All of the cover design, all of the formatting. This edition I'm proud of. It's pretty. There is if you search really hard, there's a very rare first edition that's actually published under another pen name. That's a lot less pretty. So yeah. Good luck if you can find one. I think I've got one copy left. But the formatting's a little bit ugly, because I was learning all this stuff for the first time. So that would have been the most difficult of just what am I doing with my life? What am I doing? Yeah. But the writing itself was really smooth, and that kind of lulled me into a sense of complacency. I'm like, I can do this. Yeah. Yeah, they're not all gonna be like that.
No.
With the series, really at this point, the most difficult is the fact that because it has become a long series, it is balancing all of those threads and making sure, number one, I don't forget anybody. I don't forget a subplot. It's finding room to cover all those because, like, for example, book 9, if you can see, they got progressively longer. And there's a whole bunch of characters that in book 9 I actually wrote out temporarily. Like, they're not dead or anything, but I sent them to another continent on a side quest so that I could get them out of the series because there was just no room to even talk about them and include them in a scene. Too many characters to keep up with. Yes. So I literally shipped them off to another continent to be like, I'll deal with you later. But I'm still not going to resolve all of those people, So at this point, it's balancing all those threads and pacing, because I'm coming into the last arc. If everybody behaves, which is asking a lot, there should be 12 books. So this is the 10, 11, 12 is the last arc. So I need to start enough new material to carry me through to 12, but not too much.
So, not to make it 15, 20 more books.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. So 10 is going to be a balancing act because I need to slack the tension slightly because it's the start of a new arc, so we need to slow down without slowing down because we're on the cusp of war. All this stuff that I set up in 9, like I have to slow down without slowing down, and so like that balancing act and making sure I am doing things that in a way that will satisfy readers is the most difficult at this stage.
Okay, yeah, I can see that because I listened through Atlas Shrugged earlier last year, and that the pacing is very weird on that book. Like, it's very... Have you ever read that? No. Okay, it's a 1,000-page version of 1984. Okay, that's fair. That interests you...
That's all I needed to know. Yeah. I'm good.
But, like, it's like... 1984. But, yeah, it's like... It was kind of slow-moving. You had this subtle sense... It's a political thriller, basically. So it's like... It's kind of slow. She did really good at, like, telling the story through dialogue and stuff like that. But, like, there's a certain point where everything goes down... And then it's like a fast-paced thriller through like that last quarter of the book.
So like, can I just get like the Cliff Notes version of the first 3 quarters and just read the last like 200 pages?
It was a good read to do once in my life. I'm not doing that again.
That's kind of the problem I'm having with Dune. Like, his writing is good. Okay, don't get me wrong. His writing style is great, and I love his world building. I love his characters, but the pacing is weird, and I think it's just because it's written in a different era.
Probably.
I think that was the 60s, I believe, for Dune. So, I mean, people wanted something different out of their entertainment then, like where people want different pacing now. So I think it's probably just...
There's some of that. And one thing I've got mixed reviews of Dune. Like, some people say, like, read and study and worship all of them. Like, you have those cult people. But, like, one of my brothers had read, like, the 3 books. The first 3 books, he said, don't only read the first one. Don't do it after that.
Yeah, I've also heard that. I think it depends on why you're reading it. If you're reading it because you really like the universe as a whole, I'm sure you'd want to read all of them.
Probably.
But if you're reading it because you're like me and you love Paul Atreides in the movies, probably the first, maybe the 2. Okay. So I just talked to somebody who just finished reading them all, and he said, like, 3 and 4 are really bizarre, but 5 was good, and 5 is a completely different, like, story set centuries in the future. Yeah. So, like, you could almost skip 3 and 4, so, like, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was one thing of, like, reading your books, reading Red Rain put in my mind of, like, what would the Crusades look like in space? Like, say, okay, humanity didn't completely wipe itself out, or, like, amillennialism is true, whatnot stuff, and we actually do expand out and just colonize space. Like, you could very easily see, like, Catholics take this planet, and then, like, say... Protestants kind of mix up over on this planet, and then like the Hindus take this planet. You could very easily see stuff like that happen because humans naturally segregate themselves into like the people they're comfortable around. Right. So you could very easily see that happen. But like, what if 1 or 2 could see like, I want to control the universe because that's what God wants. Like, and I'm told that's what Dune is, but it happens in between book 1 and book 2.
which is annoying. I'm
It's
like,
just,
no, we wanted to see that part.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Skip that part. Yeah, he skipped some weird stuff. I'm like, why did you summarize that?
Yeah, almost like the Star Wars skip Luke's Jedi Academy, which is the only thing I want to see in Star Wars.
Are you sure there's not an EU for that? There's so much EU for Star Wars nowadays. There's probably a comic book.
No, there's a series of books on that. Actually, the book is set around Han and Leia's kids that they didn't have by the movies. So before the Mouse took over Star Wars, they had twins, Jason and Jaina, and then a third kid. I think Jason joined the dark side, and Jada's cool thing was she could like telepathically speak with animals. But there's a conflict where
that's a thing people can do in the Star Wars universe. Sure, why not?
I mean, it makes more sense than the idiocy that happened in Episode 9.
Okay, first of all, yes, I agree. They should have ended it differently. But also, I'm just going to warn you, I may or may not be a huge Kylo Ren fan and Rey fan. So just watch your mouth. I'm just kidding.
I think the characters had more potential than the movie gave them, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%.
Like
100%.
Well, especially I would want to see more stuff around the what was Kylo Ren or what's his face, the Brotherhood he was in,
the Knights of Ren.
Knights of Ren. I would love to see at least comic books of that.
I think that was something a little bit. I found a couple, but nothing where like not enough.
It just felt like they did too much of a hit and run on that. I'm like, there's a huge amount of lore there, but. Yes. Yeah, I forget where that came off from. Yeah,
colonizing space.
Yeah. So I could,
one ring to rule them
Dune.
all.
But yeah, Dune stuff. So that's one thing your book big thing your book put in my mind. But I don't know if I'll ever get to that or co-author with. That's a huge project that would take a lot of thinking and offending a lot of people.
Yes.
So yeah, what was your favorite part of writing like Red Rain or like this series, like whatever you want to answer?
Oh man, that's a good question. It varies by book.
Okay.
So there's a part in each book where I'm like, oh, this was really fun to write, or I really like this character, or I really like this plot twist. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's always the characters.
Okay.
And especially certain characters, like I guess spoiler, like Nick and Phil's relationship. Turns into, like, you don't see it in book 1, but it eventually becomes father-daughter, and there's a whole other thing that takes 9 books to really get there. That's still one of my favorite things to write. I love redeeming villains. That's always fun. Sometimes the ones that I don't want to redeem insist they get redeemed, so it just happens. I'm dealing with one of those right now. He was not supposed to get redeemed. He was supposed to die, betray everybody, have a nice gruesome death. It was gonna be great. That did not work out. And I was like, okay, you can have a soft redemption where you can help in this book and then you're done. No, he is inserting himself into these other books. And he's like, no, I want a full redemption. And I'm like, I hate you, but I need you for this plot, so I guess this is gonna work.
Love the conversations in your head.
Yes, he and I'm like, well, I guess, because I need you, because he's on a short leash though, so he better behave.
Yeah.
So Nick and Phil's is great, and then there is a very, 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 very slow burn romance.
Okay.
That's super fun. That one was super fun. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's always going to be these character beats where like you've saved up, like you save up for, again, spoilers. Like I saved up 9 books for the moment where Nick calls Phil his daughter to somebody else and actually means it, and he's not being sarcastic.
Huh. Okay.
You know, like I worked for that. Like we have saved up emotional capital to pay that
for that
off.
moment. Okay,
yes,
that's
for
fun.
That moment, for the I love you Phil moment, not from Nick,
but
from the slow burn, who I will not, we'll just won't spoil that. So from the slow burn, the one kiss that we have, like all this stuff we saved up for and we worked towards those. So when they finally come, like those are always really great payoff moments.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's one thing I've got to work through because in my head I'm very like the Punisher is the only one who has it right in the Avengers. Like evil people die because they're evil. Like that's it. But so like in my mind, like the one novel that I wrote, I'm trying to work on eventually getting it published. Like there's obvious evil and there's obvious good, and like you don't quit. There's no like moral grayness. Like it's obvious. Like this dude wants to kill everybody and do whatever the heck he wants, and these people are trying to keep everybody alive.
Yeah.
And like there's obviously clear cut good and evil, and that's one of the things. If you read his comic book, Sean Gordon Murphy is like the best in my mind because If you like Batman, he did the White Knight series. That's incredible. That's incredible. The White Knight series. He's also done some stuff like Punk Rock Jesus is heretical on his face, but the story is really good.
I feel like I've heard of that, but I don't think.
The whole idea is this rich movie mogul wants to make a reality series about raising Jesus, so he gets a DNA from the Shroud of Turin to impregnate a virgin, and like this whole reality series, but like so like it on the face it looks heretical, but like you really show how Sean Gordon Murphy is really good at showing like the extremes. Like he shows in that book the extreme, like the militant atheists, and then he shows the militant Christians, like the Westboro Baptist people. And he shows how obviously wrong both those extremes are.
Right, exactly.
And so that kind of influenced some of my storytelling, and like I want to make it obvious, like no, this guy is evil, this guy's good. Like if you want to sin for one side or the other, that's on you. Right. I'm not going to write any of that in. Yeah. But that's a cool different writing style stuff. I'll have to consider eventually like a redeeming villain sometime, but maybe that'll happen in the process of writing it.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, number one, they're fun to write. People love a redeemed villain. But when you think about it, like that is Christianity, is redeeming sinners. Let's call us villains. Like we're all villains before Jesus gets a hold of us. So like all of us have our own redemption arc. Most of us, we weren't trying to, light the world on fire with chemical warfare. We weren't doing anything that cool. But we all have a redemption arc, and so I think that's why people gravitate towards it. And it just makes for so much variety in a story, especially in a series this long. Like many books would be super boring if everybody was always on the same side. You know, good never made any mistakes, and evil never changed its mind. Like that would get that works for like 1, maybe 2, 3 books. So like,
you can't have a series that long with. With
no variation. Like that, too much black and white, that gets boring. Now if you're doing a one-off fantasy epic where it's like we got this big Sauron type villain and here's our little Frodo and we just go and we defeat the ring and we're done, like that makes more sense. But when it's something this long and I'm aiming for more like closer to real people, sort of more or less, that's more real life.
Yeah.
Because people make mistakes. And then people do the right thing.
Yeah. That's one thing I've got to explore. That's one thing I got to explore too. And yeah, it's interesting how I thought it was cool in here how you did put like Christianity and Bible reading in like every part of the book. Like it was obvious, like it was just part of Philadelphia's life and everything.
Yeah, it's not part of a message. It's just her life.
Yeah, and although it was interesting to me reading through this how you kind of set her up as almost like an epic hero in my mind, of like. Because personally, like I don't know anybody who just reads the Bible and prays. That's their only hobby. But like that's all she does in there. Like, and this is even like theology major me. I don't do that all the time.
In her defense, she lives in a containment camp. She really doesn't have anything.
She doesn't have anything else to do.
So like,
yeah, that's fair. But like, yeah, that was.
I still need to give her a hobby. That still has not happened yet.
Really?
Because saving the world is not actually a hobby. She's gonna have to figure that out here before too long.
No. Yeah, and that. Yeah, there's some things like that happen, but yeah.
I lied. She does have a hobby now, drinking coffee. I guess if that counts.
Oh, you brought that in.
Yes, I did. That's a running gag, but that was inevitable when I'm writing a book because I love coffee. But go on.
Okay, coffee. Is it coffee snob or is she a Folgers drinker?
She likes it black. She's not a snob about how you get to black. Well, coffee is black, but it just has to be black.
Okay, because yeah, I say I'm as close to a coffee snob as you can get without being one. Because like I just have my opinions of like what I think is good coffee. And to me, people who just drink Folgers are barely coffee drinkers. It's more like brown water drinking to me.
Yeah.
I get a little, that's where I'm more opinionated on it. But like, I have a brother who like, he knows like, he is a coffee snob. Like he knows they have all the brewing technique.
Oh,
he has all the brewing techniques and all. He knows the right roast to get for what taste. I want my coffee to punch me in the face. That's all I want from it.
Yeah, so you and her and Nick would probably get along great because that's the kind of coffee they want. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like one of my brothers gave me stuff for the pour over method, and like I looked into I'm like, cool, I'll try that out. But looking into how to do it, I'm like, I'm not spending 10 minutes staring at grinds, doing no, I'm just gonna put it in the French press. It's good. That's me. But so yeah, kind of wrap this part of it up, like. Kind of tell me and everybody about summarize each of the books you wrote as kind of like a teaser of how the story progresses.
Oh man, okay, so here we go. Ready for spoilers? These are all the spoilers.
Yeah, there's gonna be alerts.
So many. Just bleep out this entire section. It's all spoilers. So I'm gonna angle these slightly so that I remember how many books I have. There's so many. So I guess I should probably say for the audience, this is the main series. I do also write bonus stories. So we affectionately call them the half books. So they're like 1.5, 2.5. I won't mention those here, or we will be here for 5 hours. Because if you count the half books, there's soon to be 18 books in the series. So we would be here a while. But the half books, they're all like bonus material. So it's backstory, it's alternate perspectives, it's side quests that don't fit in the main narrative.
Okay.
Because the main books all follow Philadelphia, and then eventually Nick joins as a second POV or point of view. So anybody else, like there's stuff from Stanyard, you know, it all goes into bonus stories. So that way it doesn't get quite so confusing, but I can still explore all of these other characters, stuff we just didn't have time for. Like there's a whole romantic side quest between 2 other characters that I won't mention that just didn't fit in the main series, and
write a little book on the side for it.
Yeah, so I did. So they have their own little, that's 6.5, they have their own little romantic side quest.
Okay.
You know, stuff like that. So speaking of the main series, obviously book 1 introduces our world where this dystopian universe set about, hang on, do math, about 50 years in the future, where it's a one world government. So all countries all over the world are assimilating into what's called the United, and to be assimilated into the United, you have to sign a file that denies all, basically anything that makes you unique, and submit totally to the government's control. So there's no religion, there's no national borders, there's no race, none of that. So obviously if you refuse to sign the file, you're called unassimilated. And so Philadelphia and her family, they're Christians, they've refused to sign the file. So they actually live in a containment camp. And are facing a lot of persecution, and then Dad gets an assignment to go to Mars, and Phil is originally not supposed to be able to go with, but somebody pulls the strings and she's able to go. And while we're on Mars, we uncover a plot to destroy Earth with a super weapon, because it's not just Christians that are upset at the United. There are some other people who would like to end the government's control, and they have some interesting methods.
Yeah.
And she has to make the decision, am I going to partner with this? Am I going to partner with this evil and be able to save my family and live in peace on Mars? Or am I going to basically save the people that have persecuted me her entire life? So, since we're going to spoilers, obviously she decides to not set Earth on fire.
Yeah, chemical warfare is not fun.
It is not. And that's really become a point of the series, is like, yes, we're going to resist evil. Yes, this is wrong. Yes, we're going to stand up and fight. But we do not fight with the world's weapons. If we were to use this chemical weapon, we would be no better than they are.
Yeah, ends don't justify the means.
Correct. That's a big theme. And it's like, we do things God's way. So, spoiler alert, she turns the scientist in. I guess I should clarify, that's Nick. Okay, Nick is the evil mad scientist here. Turns the scientist in, and then he gets arrested. They go back to Earth. Happily ever after. Ish, yes. Because originally this was supposed to be a standalone. That did not work.
20 books later.
20 books later, yeah, that did not work out for me. So, book 2 is all about, now, of course, here's the problem. She turned Nick over to the government. The government's like, ooh, shiny super weapon. We should have one of those. So now the government is blackmailing Nick into finishing his project, and is using Philadelphia and Nick's brother Sia as collateral. So they get arrested, and it turns out her dad, Philadelphia's dad, is actually the one that completes the formula in exchange for her life. So dad turns into evil scientist here. So they break out of jail. They're going on the run to try to stop the government from completing Red Rain, is the super weapon. And they go to a prison factory on an island where they're creating Red Rain. And again, we have to have this decision of like, no, I'm not going to sit down and take it, even though I'm really, really mad at my dad right now. We are going to light this factory on fire. And in that moment, in this factory is burning down, is where Nick's deciding, like, I don't actually want to be responsible for a chemical war, because whether or not I shoot or they shoot, it doesn't matter. Like, either way, the world ends up in ashes. Like, either way, everybody suffers. And so that's where Nick is like, oh, I guess I'll help you blow up this factory that I helped create, I guess, if I have to. And then book 3, they get arrested again. This is what happens when you do lots of arrests, man. By somebody who would really, really like to have this chemical super weapon, and is using Phil as blackmail to find her father, because they destroyed the factory, the chemical weapon's gone, Her father's the only one who knows the formula now. So they're using Phil as blackmail to try to find her father, who is on the run. And in the process of having her record these videos and trending on the internet, they accidentally start a revolution. It happens.
Yeah, it just happens.
It just happens. Of course, we don't find it out in book 3, but there's people that are working behind the scenes that see her videos and we're like, this is our Mockingjay moment. It's a, what is his name? The game maker, whose name I'm forgetting right now. No. What is his name? The game maker from Catching Fire that ends up being working with the Resistance. His name is gone. Can't find it.
I only watched the movies.
Yeah, his name is escaping. But that guy, sees his Katniss moment. Sees, this is footage I can use. So there's somebody working behind the scenes that's like, I can use this, makes it trend, and accidentally turns her into basically the Mockingjay. So book 4, they defeat that other bad guy. Book 4, of course, now her file's a mess. The entire world knows that Philadelphia Smyrna is the connection to Red Rain. She's public enemy number 1. So she adopts a new name. She changes her hair color, changes her fingerprints, adopts a new name of Andromeda Nolan, and goes back to Earth to look for her father. Only problem is, it's not just the government that's looking for her now, it's also the underground and the Resistance.
They want their hero.
They want their hero, and she has no idea what's going on. Shenanigans happen. Everybody catches up to them at once. Dad gets cryogenically frozen because why not? Because a little more tragedy. That's all we needed. And so book 5 is she finally figures out what is going on with this revolution. She finds out they call it's the Thunderbird. She finds out she's Bluefire. She's the head of this revolution. She had no idea anything was going on. And come to find out, this is not the first time her dad has done this. Her dad actually did try to start a revolution 2 years ago, and quit when he accidentally killed her mom. So she finds out all that about her mom, find out she's been lied to her entire life. Her dad has done this before, and now they want her to take her place. And her first reaction is, no, nope. Sir, going back to Mars, leaving you, going back to Nick. Mick's still on Mars. Going back to Mars, not doing this. But through, I guess I won't spoil what, but they show her some, like, this is what the United does. This is some of the real evil. Like, you have actually not seen anything in your containment camp. Like, you've been in the nice part of the system. Here is some of the actual evil the United has done. So she agrees to be Bluefire. Book 6, Revolution's taking off. She's recording videos, trying to thaw Dad out, because that's a whole process. Find out Dad does survive, but he doesn't have any memories. And
brain freeze.
Yes, literally. So she's become Bluefire. The revolution is taking off. And she has the opportunity to actually go to Beijing, to where the seat of the government is, and meet the head of the United Government. Because of her alternate identity, her adopted identity, she's actually an elite. That fake name that she undertook. She's part of an elite family. And there are some political people who know she is and have taken interest in her. It's like, well, we want you to be one of us, kind of vibe. And she has the opportunity to go and meet the head of the United and one of her contacts in the military, whose name is Jade, who may or may not be the one who is not supposed to get a redemption arc and is insisting he has one. Is like, yo, you could kill the general. Like, you could just assassinate basically President Snow. Like, you could just assassinate the leader of the known universe, and that would be our revolution. That would end the United. There you go. And she's like, I don't kill people. And they go through this whole thing. And she's like, okay, I'll do it, because it sounds right. Like, we can just kill this one guy, and we can end all this tyranny, all this persecution. The war will win the war. But of course, that's not her, and that's not how we do things. And that's where I really start to deviate from my sort of Mockingjay Hunger Games vibe, because Katniss would have totally pulled the trigger. Yeah, Katniss does pull the trigger. Let's spoilers, but Katniss does pull the trigger. And spoilers, Phil does not, because she realizes this is not right, and no matter what happens, I have to do what's right for me. Now, what's right for other people, like, I can't make a judgment. If somebody else was standing in my place, they may pull the trigger. That's on them. I have to live with my conscience. Correct. And it's what God wants me to do. Because, maybe if somebody else was standing in that position, maybe they should pull the trigger. That doesn't matter. That's not, it's you in that moment. And so she doesn't. And Nick, who has spent the last 3 books sort of like trying to parent from Mars without, like, trying to be concerned without being concerned, because he doesn't want to admit he has feelings, swoops back in and saves, and it's one of my favorite climaxes because it's James Bond. 100%. Swoops in, gun, white suit jacket, black suit pants, everything. It's amazing. And then the government official that's been sort of, we'll say, grooming Philadelphia this whole time swoops in. It's like, yo, you're under arrest. Because surprise, I am Nick's ex. And
oh yeah.
Because why not? Because everybody needs a villain arc, and why not have vengeful ex-girlfriend as part of your villain arc? I love it. So book 7, they are now on the run. Number 1 most wanted in Beijing, which is literally the most dangerous city in the world at this point because the government control is strongest in Beijing. Get in contact with the Chinese underground. Phil is peeling back the layers of like what actually happened with Nick and the villain, which is Asia, like what actually happened, like why, find out Nick's family used to be Christian, Nick to walk away from the faith, why? And digging into all of that, that what happened between him and Asia, why is he still angry, like digging into all that. Gets involved with the underground, and finds out all the churches there in Beijing support her. Like she has a massive amount of support. And Nick the whole this time is like, no, we just need to leave and go back to Mars. Like, you're not doing this. You are not Blue Fire. I am done putting up with this teenage shenanigans.
Dad's putting his foot down.
Yes, Dad is like, I am not doing this. You are not a revolutionary. We are leaving. I came back to save you because I don't hate you, and we're leaving. But Phil's like, we can do this. Like, I know this is right. Like, running back to Mars and just letting Earth set itself on fire, that's not the solution.
Yeah.
And Nick is like, and I want nothing to do with this. And so he starts sowing these things in her, like, no, God didn't choose you. Like, no, this is not right. This is all your fault, knowing that if he can get her to break, she'll leave and she'll come back to Mars with him. And he succeeds exactly at the moment that he realizes that's not right. And
of course.
Yes. And so at the last minute, he's like, no, you have to do this, and I am supposed to help you. And that is where we're allowed spoilers, right?
Go ahead.
So this entire time, Phil has had a chip in her palm. That was how she was going to assassinate the general. Is basically shake his hand, and it was going to react to his DNA, send him into cardiac arrest. Like, that was his whole plan. So she's had this chip in her hand this whole time because they've been on the run and they haven't been able to get it removed. So after all this book of Nick avoiding, and Nick hates physical contact, by the way, all this book of Nick just being cold and standoffish, at this very end, he's like, no, I lied to you. You are supposed to be here. You are supposed to do this. God did choose you, and I'm going to help you. Mr. I don't love physical affection actually holds out his hand and is like, come with me, we can do this. And she grabs his hand, and it reacts to Nick's DNA and sends him into cardiac arrest.
Of course.
And so literally the last 2 lines of, you better put a spoiler on this,
yeah.
The last 2 lines of book 7 are, Nick was dying and I killed him. To be continued.
Nice.
Yes, I have had a book thrown at me. And I'm like, I've lived my entire life to have a book hurled at me. It was amazing. So we open in book 8 of like, is he going to be dead or not? He does survive, but he's in no shape to run. And the paramedics have arrived and realized who he is, and he's under arrest, and so he tells her to run and never come back. So she escapes, and then goes through watching him. He has to go through this trial online. Asia's like running him through the ringer, trying to get Phil to turn herself in. Like, Asia's just torturing everybody she can get her hands on to try to get Phil to turn in so that Asia can have the war that she wants. Phil, of course, resists, continues to do the revolution, while having all of this self-doubt, and she's also not sleeping. She's having insomnia, she's having anxiety, she's having all this struggle, and the big thing in book 8 is she's like, I know I'm supposed to do this. Even Nick told me that I am supposed to do this. While everybody else is telling her, no, this is too dangerous, you need to quit. And so struggling between, I know God told me to do this, and holding on to your vision of what you think God told you to do.
Okay.
So we get that resolved, and then I originally thought the ending of book 7 was as worst as you could get with the cliffhanger, but I have been told the cliffhanger ending of 8 is even worse, and more people die.
Nice.
And the love interest gets captured in Asia. It looks like Asia is winning. To be continued. You know how it is. And then book 9 is, of course, the revolution is in shambles because Asia's slaughtering all these people. She's burning Phil at the stake. Like, the media is turning against him. But then Phil finally learns to submit to grown-ups that know what they're doing, and she's got a contact in the military that's helping her. She finally submits and follows her direction, and the revolution starts to win. They twist the narrative. They start making ground in the media. They're winning. Until Mr. Jade who during all this time has betrayed Phil like 3 times and has been a complete jerk, and I really, really, really wanted him to die and go die, but he's like, no, thank you, comes back with information that Asia knows where the underground is. She's been sending weapons, like donating guns and money to trace the underground. So she's set up this fake company under actually Philadelphia's name, like her adopted name, has sent guns and money to the underground, so she knows where they all are. So if they go through with their big Operation Demonstration Day, it's going to be a slaughter. Asia's going to slaughter them all and then seize control, because Asia wants to replace her father as leader of the known universe, Emperor Palpatine over here. So Phil has to make this decision, like, I can't let people go through with this. Like, I'm letting all of these people that follow me, I'm letting them walk right into a trap. And she realized I have one way to possibly save all my people and still win the war, is that I need to go back home, assume my false identity as Andromeda Nolan, as an elite, go assimilate back into high society, and take Asia down from the inside. If I can find enough evidence that she's the one that's done this, that she's planting these guns, that she's funding rebels, then the council will take care of her for her. Like, I can turn the government against itself. So it's an Esther plot, basically, where it's so much fun, where she goes back as an elite, holds the party, gets the general to come over, whole Haman and Esther sort of thing. And as this is going through, they find out there's another problem. We finally get Nick back in the picture. He's been in jail, sad guy. He finally comes back. He's had his come to Jesus moment. It's amazing. He talks to the Holy Spirit all the time. It's a trip. You think Nick is fun? Wait till Nick gets the Holy Spirit. He's unhinged. It's great. He comes back and he has information that not only has Asia distributed guns, but these guns are defective. They're implanted with a battery that will explode when fired.
Okay.
And he knows this because the prison factory she shipped him off to was the one making them. So it's also kind of a Jonah Joseph kind of plot going on there, where like there was a whole reason he had to get sent off to prison in Russia, literally on the top of a mountain, so he could come back with this information. And so Phil realizes, like, turning Asia in is not enough. I actually have to call off the revolution, because if all my allies in Beijing use these weapons, not only will they all die, but we'll literally wipe Beijing off the map. And so she has to make the decision again of, like, we don't fight with their weapons. Like, she has the choice of, we can go through with Operation Day and we'll probably win. Like, we'll lose Beijing, but we will crumble the government. We will end the United. Like, we will win. But at what cost? Of a city of 30 million people and the risk of people finding out that I knew the whole time. And then I allowed them to all become basically suicide bombers.
Yeah.
And again, that's where I twist the whole, dystopian genre on its head, because again, somebody like Katniss might have gone through with that, but she's like, no, I don't care if we have to lose the war. I am not slaughtering 30 million innocent people, wiping a city off a map. So she pulls an Esther, and it's an amazing scene, goes literally and confronts the council and tells them about Asia at the same time she calls off the operation. Tells her followers to abandon ship, leave Beijing, run, they know you're coming, don't shoot. And then so book 9 is just where we're leaving off right now. She does succeed. Asia's dead finally. And she has an opportunity to go off planet back to Mars with a character that I won't name, but and even Nick, even though he hates it, agrees. So Phil's leaving planet and Nick is left on Earth. We're literally 12 hours away from Operation Day, and Nick is just like, did I just make a really bad mistake by letting her go off planet?
Yeah, okay.
To be continued.
Yeah, so that's where you are so far. That's
yes,
cool.
Correct.
Yeah.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah, I just want to give everybody, like, if they're curious about this series and if they wanted spoilers, like, that's the idea of this series. Just like if you're curious about, like, Inheritance Cycle or, like, Star Wars, like, you can find some summary somewhere and, like, hey, I want to look into that. But yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool progression. That's the Red Rain series. That's the end of the question I had for this part of it. All right, yeah, and with that, I'll remind you all, God loves you and wants to spend forever with you, and I want you to have a good life here on Earth.